Are you a scaling SaaS founder?
Ready to make the leap from leading a team to leading an organization? Join us each week as we refill your think tank with actionable tips and strategies from great business minds you know and those you don't know yet. This is SaaS Fuel with your host, 5-time entrepreneur, SaaS founder, and globetrotting adventurer, Jeff Maines.
Welcome back to the SaaS Fuel podcast, where we like to mix tech and fitness. Yeah, we're kind of a bunch of nerds like that. I'm your host, Jeff Maines. I help B2B SaaS founders like you grow from traction to scale. Here, growth is more than just numbers. It's about crafting a future-proof company, premium valuation, and leaders who build a business of significance while living epic, adventurous lives. I'm in the far, far north of the main Fiji island this week in a place called Vali, way up top, about as far north as you can go. And you know, it's so nice they named it twice, I guess. Wrapping up Dive Adventures here, and it has been absolutely spectacular for the business relationships built, strategies. I remember a few episodes ago, I met people who will be part of my future, and that's absolutely true. And really try to make a difference in people's lives here as well. And of course, did a lot of scuba diving. It's an amazing place, beautiful people. Did you know that 70% of consumers prefer to support companies that give back to society and support causes that they care about? And as a founder, entrepreneur, leader, you're in a unique position to make a real difference. So how are you using your influence? I absolutely believe that we have a responsibility to give back and share success. It's a mission, a calling, a must. Not a big fan of like government programs, keep people dependent, and politicians in power. When the business community steps up, amazing things happen. And as leaders, we are uniquely positioned to impact worthy causes and uplift communities, ready to turn your success into significance. As founders and entrepreneurs, the drive to build businesses often consumes most of our energy and resources as well. I get it. I've been there. The times I am there. While the focus on growth and profitability is absolutely crucial, it's easy to overlook the powerful role we can play making a positive impact in our communities and in our world. And many entrepreneurs feel that giving back is something they'll do later, once they've made it, right? But the truth is, the ability to give back is a privilege that comes with the entrepreneurial journey, not the end of it. And the impact can really be profound, not only for the causes that you support, which it is, but also for your business and personally. I think I get more from doing that than I do from just about anything else. So let's explore how we as entrepreneurs can leverage our unique positions to give back and make a difference. The first is integrating purpose into our business. And that's actually one of our core values, one of our core principles. And it's really aligning your business with a cause that resonates with you and your values, and also the values of your clients. And it could be supporting education, environmental sustainability, social justice, could be kids, pets, whatever. But integrating purpose into your business model not only creates a positive impact, but also strengthens your brand's identity and connection with your audience. Second is leveraging resources and network. As an entrepreneur, you have access to resources and networks and expertise as well that can be incredibly valuable to worthy causes. Consider offering your skills, your products, your services pro bono to nonprofits or community organizations. Additionally, use your platform to raise awareness and mobilize your network to support initiatives that matter to you. Because they're in your network, they'll likely matter to them as well, but you can get them excited about that. And third is fostering a culture of giving within your organization. And really encourage a culture of giving within your company. And in doing that, involve your team in those efforts. Could be volunteer programs, donation matching, could be company-sponsored community projects. It could be, setting goals, like you hit a goal and so much is donated. Could be along with bonuses. Could be that the bonus goes to the project, whatever it may be, if the employees are excited about it. But when giving back becomes a shared mission, it fosters a sense of purpose and unity within your organization. I'm telling you, nothing unites a team then better than purpose. And that could be within your company and the purpose you serve and your clients. They can also be a third party, a charity, a nonprofit, an organization that you give to. And one of the most inspiring examples to me is Tom's Shoes, founded by Blake Mykotsky. Tom started with a simple idea. For every pair of shoes sold, a pair would be donated to a child in need. This one-for-one model not only provided over 100 million pairs of shoes to children worldwide, but also inspired a movement of socially responsible businesses. It was way bigger than just shoes. And we were in a Fijian village talking about culture and just sitting down having a conversation, just what is it like? And their hospitality is absolutely world-class, second to none. And I'm telling them this, that been all over the world, and it is like the best. And one of the men explained that it's their tradition, it's part of their culture to invite people in, strangers, anyone passing by. And he said, because if you have something, even a little bit, you have something to share. And that statement was by far the most impactful statement of this entire trip. And as founders and entrepreneurs and leaders, we're in a unique and privileged position to give back and make a difference. Today, not someday. And by integrating purpose into your business, leveraging your resources, your network, fostering a culture of giving, you can create a legacy that extends way beyond your bottom line and your business. And again, today, not someday. Our guests on the show last week, both founders, special Founders Week, double Founders Week, my birthday week, and I wanted to do that. So we had two founders on Thursday. We had Brad Dickinson, co-founder of Social HP, a SaaS-provided employee advocacy and thought leadership platform. We talked about how to tell your unique story and stand out from the crowd, plus how to get it in front of more people. And like George Bryant says, relationships beat algorithms. Social HP does that really, really well. And then our founder last Tuesday was Kirk Marple, founder and CEO of Graphlit. He's turning mountains of unstructured data into natural language questions, answers, and informed decisions. We talked about his journey creating a narrow use case and examples for a broad solution and the unique challenges of bringing that to market. So if that sounds like you, it's like it can do anything. This is a great episode for you. Both of them last week, absolutely fantastic. If you missed either one, go back and give them a listen. My guest today is Stephen Webster, a lifelong technologist and martial artist, very cool, who is also the CEO and founder of Ascensi, leading technology in motion capture and human movement recognition for personalized, connected health and fitness experiences. That stuff is just awesome. He has a 4th degree black belt and has been a successful martial arts coach in the past. He's exceptional at that and brings that right into business as well. Stephen has brought his passion for precision and excellence to tech, previously leading innovation at Adobe and Microsoft before launching Ascensi to revolutionize the fitness technology. Welcome our guest today, Stephen Webster. Hey Stephen, welcome to SaaS Fuel.
Hey Jeff, thanks so much. Excited to be here.
Well, tell me a little bit about your journey from being a successful sports coach and entrepreneur to founding Ascensi. What was that transition like?
It's not a transition as much as a journey.
Love it.
It kind of feels like I'm at the place I was always destined to go. So I'll start when I was 2. No, I mean, if you go all the way back, I grew up playing a ton of sport as a kid. Sport was always a big part of just, individual sports, team sports. But the sports I was kind of more sort of the activities I was, obsessed with and disproportionately good at were martial arts, judo, then jiu-jitsu. And then when I joined university, I went to University of Edinburgh. I wanted to play a sport as well as be kind of immersed in books. And so I was already a black belt in jiu-jitsu. And so I joined the karate club. I thought maybe I can learn some karate and compete. And I did compete. And then I captained and then I coached the club for 10 years. So I've always had this kind of sports coaching thread kind of running through my life. And then I was also at university, my parents didn't pay for me to go and, fight people. So I studied computer science and electronics, always wanted to work in tech. My dad was in tech and I kind of grew up like one of the first kids in my town to have a computer and a soldering iron. And so always kind of had this tech thread. And then fast forward, I built a company in kind of the 2005 timeframe that I sold to Adobe. So I'd kind of done that accidental entrepreneur and sold a company to Adobe by accident. Thinking I was just, I keep getting laid off. I might as well start my own company was the kind of impetus for that. But then, fast forward through Adobe, I then did a tour of duty at Microsoft. And while I was at Microsoft, just a lot of trends were on the horizon, wearable computing. I was working with the Microsoft Connect team on a lot of projects. So kind of computer vision and movement recognition, AI and intel. And this is like, 2011, 2012, but AI, digital assistants, like one day, we'll interact with AI more than interact with our screens. We'll speak and we'll talk and we'll gesture. And so this kind of fascination I had for sport and sport coaching and fitness that was unsatisfactorily delivered online because you can't learn sport and fitness from a book or a video. Combined with all these like really exciting new technologies that were emerging around wearable and AI and computer vision, I just had I had an entrepreneur's moment of like, I think sport, fitness, and healthcare will be delivered at home, will be delivered digitally. At the time, my premise was will be delivered unsupervised without an expert in the room. And an enabling technology for that will be movement recognition, teaching machines to have perception and understanding of human movement. And so, long story short, I kind of quit a really good job at Microsoft, started another company. And here we are 10 years later. We're kind of the leading company in movement recognition and what we call coaching intelligence.
That's great. I remember the Microsoft Connect. It connected to the Xbox, or maybe it was the 360. And that was really revolutionary. And it's kind of put out there as a game, but just looking at it, it's like this has such great commercial potential in so many areas.
It was such a great story, actually. So yeah, you're right. And when I joined Microsoft, that was kind of right around the time of the Connect. I'm now kind of very good friends with a couple of the founders. They're just bar buddies at this point. And have gone on to work on they worked on Microsoft Connect, but also worked on HoloLens, worked on the Apple Vision Pro, worked on drones for Amazon. So, really smart guys that were, guys and gals that were, very involved in just kind of, computer vision and machine recognition. And listen, it was launched as a games controller. You'll also remember the Nintendo Wii, suddenly this like really cheap, poor graphics, poor sound was competing with AAA titles because it was fun to get up and move around and make it interactive with your family. So Connect was like a
Wii because of that. I mean, it's crazy to think about that and just how it broadened the market, but it really did.
But Connect was like this Lamborghini engine in a Ford, right? It was this like incredibly powerful piece of hardware, and Microsoft never open sourced it, but people hacked it, and that's always a great sign. And people are like, I want to figure out how to, get access to this and make it do other things. And the hacks weren't games. The hacks were, how can we track objects? And you maybe remember like throwing a piece of trash and the trash can would move to catch the piece of trash. And people were using a Connect to track trajectories of bits of paper that you were throwing. And, just the community showed us what they wanted to be able to do when a machine had perception and vision and cognition. And that's when I started to really look at this and be like, this is kind of an enabling technology for sports coaching and fitness coaching. Yeah. And, Xbox went briefly in that direction, but it's the end of life and the sunset of Connect is another story for another day. But the ideas live on, and it's companies like Ascensi that are carrying those ideas forward.
It was a great idea that just seemed to kind of die. So we can talk about that another time.
Yeah,
but I love that you've taken that and carried it forward. And now you've got, technology that can track movement and have married that with AI and, really built a training solution that tracks movement and is a virtual coach.
Yeah, and we decided very early on, you kind of start a company around a premise of there's a problem that needs to be solved, but at some point very quickly you need to figure out how you're going to monetize that problem, where you're going to fit in the ecosystem, where you're going to fit in the tech stack, what your go-to-market's going to be. And so we very quickly, I mean, I think my very, very first pitch deck, which was probably like 2013, 2014, was, it had Intel's logo there. It had Dolby, like Dolby Audio's logo there, because those were the kind of brands that we saw ourselves like, that the way for us to be a pervasive technology was to be an ingredient in other people's products rather than to be direct consumer, right? So we always thought about Ascensi as this ingredient brand where we, like you buy a TV or a hi-fi, who buys a hi-fi anymore, but you buy a TV, a hi-fi, you buy your Sonos headset. Sure. You want Dolby Atmos on there. You don't want the one that doesn't have Dolby, because you know what Dolby stands for. It's high fidelity audio and high fidelity video. And we kind of feel the same about Ascensi is, faced with a choice between 2 fitness products or 2 physical therapy programs or 2 games on your VR headset. You'll want the one that's powered by Ascensi, not the one that's not. Because to your point, if it's powered by Ascensi, I know it's watching me. I know it knows what I'm doing. I know it knows how well I should be doing that. I know it knows how to intervene. And that intervention might be in the moment. Hey, Jeff, shoulders back.
Yeah.
Or that intervention might be the next time you work out. Hey, Jeff, we're going to do some squats again today. Last time you did this, you were letting your shoulders drop forward. So this time, put your shoulders back. So we give a lot of control to the end customer on what the user experience will be, but we give them all the ingredients and the underlying AI that can capture movement and understand movement and just make that really hard decision that humans make look so simple, which is if I'm coaching you, I just know what to say. I might see you do 10 things wrong, but I quickly process, give him a break. He's just a beginner. It's second class. He's got an injury, blah, 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 blah. Tell him this. And there's a lot of decision making went on there, and teaching that to a machine is kind of hard. So that's what we do.
And that's an amazing use case. Yeah, as tech moves further into fitness, I think it's a great, great thing. I mean, we've got watches and rings and those kinds of things. And this is just kind of the next evolution of having that, personalized fitness experience without having to go somewhere, and probably much higher quality, coaching than, somebody who's, it's their first week doing it.
It's interesting. Recently, you might be familiar with Les Mills, kind of a legacy brand in at-home fitness and in-studio fitness and fitness programs. They just put some stats out recently, and I hope I get the numbers right here. But it was something like 70% of consumers work out at home. Doesn't mean they don't work out at a gym as well, but 70% want to work out at home. That's unsupervised practice. 1 in 3 consumers who are working out at a gym started their journey at home. In fact, they maybe even discovered the brick and mortar brand through a digital touch point. And the one that I care a lot about, because kind of the part of the purpose for me around Ascensi is like, I want more people to unlock their potential by first realizing their athletic potential. That's kind of my story. I wouldn't be an entrepreneur if I wasn't a black belt and a coach first. That's kind of where I learned the lessons that give me the courage to build teams and build businesses. So I want for more people to know that. 1 in 2 people don't ever join a gym or join a yoga class because they're intimidated or because they don't have the confidence to do it. And so at home is a great place to break down those barriers. It's like, you are flexible enough. I can teach you 5 or 6 moves. You want to go and join a boxing class? Let me teach you 6 basic punches at home. So when you go into a class, you know the difference between a jab and a cross. And so, I think digital is an on-ramp to in-person. And it's a supplement to in-person. So it's as in any industry, digital is here to stay.
And it is interesting to see, just how fitness and technology have converged. And, you see, bikes, you can ride at home with screens. You've got the mirror. You've got, home gyms that are smart now. Yeah. Very, very good stuff.
And, it's interesting as well. So, I mean, you're right. And that kind of, the category was named as connected fitness, connected fitness being, products that have screens on them, have internet connections, can stream classes, can stream workouts. But some of the work that we're doing is what I call the legendary legacy brands. Like, do you really need a dumbbell that has a Bluetooth sensor and a touchpad and a screen, and suddenly you're $200 dumbbell is $600 and comes with a subscription. So we're working with brands like, so one of our customers is a customer called PowerBlock. So they make an interchangeable dumbbell. You know, it's one dumbbell, but you can change whether it's 5 pounds, 10 pounds, 15 pounds just by, you know, clicking something in and out of the dumbbell and changing the weight.
Great.
But we're using computer vision and AI to detect when you pick it up and then to detect what weight you're holding. So we know not only that you're doing a bicep curl, but you're doing a bicep curl with a 15-pound weight. Now, you know, somewhat interesting. We can log that for you. You don't need to write that down in your notebook anymore. You don't need to remember what you've done. But more interesting, we can just create really engaging experiences. It's like, Jeff, last set, you did 8 reps with 15 pounds. Do you want to do 10 reps with 10 pounds, or do you want to do 6 reps with 20 pounds? More weight or more reps? And, you know, how are you going to tell us? Just pick up the weight you want to use, and then we'll know what goal you've chosen. So now we can make these kind of like dumb pieces of equipment that don't have lithium-ion batteries and don't have screens and don't have Bluetooth connections, but we can use machine cognition, computer vision to make that dumb product smart. And guess what? There's tens, if not hundreds of thousands of them that have been in market for the last, 10, 15, 20 years that suddenly become smart overnight. So I'm a gadget guy. I love the mirrors and I love the bikes, and they're all in the gym next to me. But I also love the idea that my ordinary punch bag, my ordinary dumbbell, my TRX straps, these things all become smart as well when you give cognition to a machine. So yeah, I could go on and on, but
it keeps equipment relevant for years. You don't have to go out and buy something new. You can use what you're already using, and now you've got the smart capabilities, already, built into it without building anything into it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is very, very cool. What have been the challenges in bringing something like this to market?
Oh my gosh, I got to litigate 10 years.
Technology has changed so much in 10 years as well.
I mean, I think, challenges, were you here for COVID? I mean, I think, listen, let me go all the way back, 10 years ago, when I started, I sold a company to Adobe. I worked for Microsoft. I'm just going to walk along Sand Hill Road in Silicon Valley, and investors will be throwing checks out the window at me, and I'll start a company. And apparently that wasn't going to be as easy as that. Nobody believed in this future. Yeah. And I think that's oftentimes a challenge. I stole this phrase from someone else, but, never mistake a clear line of sight for a short distance. Just because you see, with clarity what you think the future looks like doesn't mean it's going to happen tomorrow just because you see it clearly. So it took us a long time to build that coalition of the willing, get other people to have enough conviction to work with us, to fund us, to be part of the early part of our journey. So I think, that was probably the first thing I would share. And then I think the second thing I would share is, you never know what's around the corner, right? I mean, we were in a major fundraising at the start of a pandemic where nobody knew which way was going to be up and what was going to happen and what would this mean for the capital markets. And it's just the constant refrain of an early stage company is you need to be able to flex and adapt and change. And, as traumatic as that was for all of us, it did cause this tectonic shift towards at-home workouts. Gyms closed, and you couldn't buy a rowing machine in America. You couldn't buy a dumbbell in America because everybody was working out at home. And so, you got to lean into the positives and not worry about the negatives. So many other, things along the way, but I think that was kind of the biggest challenge was helping people see the same future that we saw, so that we could get to that future faster.
So how did you do that from a marketing perspective in really sharing the vision and, whether it was embedding the technology or downstream of using the technology?
Smoke and mirrors.
Good answer.
The very first thing, and I wouldn't recommend this for everybody, but the very first thing we did as a company is we put a bunch of money into a very high quality video that told a story of, imagine if you will. I often talk about the from to. We're going to go from this world into this world, and this is what it will look like.
Yeah.
And we did that storytelling through video. And it was a decent chunk of change when you're quitting your job and thinking about where you spend your money and where you spend your time. But it was pivotal. It became like this. You can tell I worked at Microsoft when I say North Star, but it became this North Star for what this future could look like. But then the second thing we had to do, as I said to you from day one, it was pretty much from day one, we realized we need to be an ingredient brand. We need to be B2B. But it's very hard to ask other people to sip champagne you haven't sipped yourself or eat dog food that you haven't tasted yourself, right? And so we decided to pick one sport that was niche. It was big enough for us to lead, but small enough to matter, where there was clear adjacent sports. If we get this one right, we'll kind of naturally start to move into the next one and the next one. And a whole bunch of 2x2 matrices. I'm a recovering consultant, so a whole bunch of 2x2 matrices. We decided that indoor rowing would be a good place for us to start, where our technology would have make or break difference. Like a rower said to me once, I asked him what's now a very naive question, but I was naive at the time. I was like, how important is technique and form in rowing? He just kind of looked at me and said, good form. It's everything. He was like, good form is free speed. I was like, free speed. I love that. So
that's really good.
So we picked it for rowing, and we actually went B2C. We built a kind of microcosm of what the whole ecosystem might look like. So we built an app. We got 3 or 4 coaches on board. We worked with equipment manufacturers like Concept 2. We worked with a few of the big governing bodies, like we did partnerships with British Rowing, and we're still in all these partnerships because we accidentally picked up like hundreds of thousands of downloads along the way, and if we kill that product, people will come for us. So we have one of the most popular rowing apps in the App Store, but it was really only an MVP of, can we illustrate what the market looks like? Can we engage directly with a constituent of our target customers, target partners? And what can we learn? Like, what lessons will we learn there, so that when we do become an ingredient brand, it's from a position of knowledge, not from a position of opinion.
It's really, really smart. I think it's brilliant to choose something like that. It's non-obvious. When you were talking about, picking the sport, I'm just going through my mind thinking, okay, what sports would those be? And rowing didn't even come up. And so I think it's the brilliance of that, because it is significant. But the market is big. I mean, it's popular. There's a lot of money in it, a lot of money spent on it. And it's those very small details that make such a huge difference for those teams.
No, I mean, I'll tell you, so a couple of things I would share. So, after I joined Adobe, I was lucky enough to work with some of the best designers in the world. And then even luckier to have the opportunity to lead them at a later point in my career there. So I got design religion. And I don't mean, we used to talk about design with a small d and design with a big D. Design with a small d is brand, aesthetic, color, font, look and feel. But design with a big D is fundamental. It's like, how do people use things? What are unmet consumer needs? What are new ways that you might, and it requires living a day in the life of the target customer. It requires ethnography and anthropology. Like, don't ask customers what they want, a faster horse, right? But observe the problem that they have. The distances they have to travel are longer, and they're unsafe in the dark. Maybe there's a car there, right? So, that was the first thing, as I learned and then honed and then practiced repeatedly this skill inside of Adobe Consulting of really getting inside consumer needs and partner needs and stakeholder needs. And so I hung out with a lot of rowers, and I hung out with a lot of rowing coaches, and I hung out with a lot of rowing machine manufacturers. And then the second is, to your point, you have to be dispassionate and have frameworks about go-to-market. It can't be the most obvious. Like, 2 of the co-founders have 6th Dan, 4th Dan, 2nd Dan, and 2nd Dan black belts between us in jiu-jitsu and karate. The most obvious sport for us to go after, right? Of course. I mean, I was one of the most successful karate coaches in the UK for 10 years. So why are you not doing karate? It's like, because it doesn't meet the requirements of the experiment we're running. And so, rowing, we just had a bunch of questions about, for every sport, how can we be dispassionate about whether that's the right market for us to go first into or not? And it lit up. And so, knowing nothing about rowing, we learned everything about rowing.
Ready to future-proof your company and scale to new heights? Dive into the ultimate resource designed for SaaS founders and C-suite executives. Champion Leadership Group gives you an unfair advantage in scaling up revenue and outwitting competitors. Imagine solving your biggest scaling headaches and hitting 5, 10, 20 million ARR and beyond with ease. We take away the guesswork and the grunt work and replace it with framework by supporting you with our on-demand fractional C-suite team, a powerful operating system built into software, and a thriving community of fellow scaling SaaS founders. That's how we make it happen. If you're stuck at your current revenue level, this is your ticket out. Feel like your company is the world's best kept secret? We amplify your success. And hey, if you're already crushing it but too busy to breathe and hang out like this, we got you. We'll free up 20% of your time in the first month. Now is the time to upgrade from traction to scale. If you're ready to work smarter and not just grind harder, schedule a 10-minute growth brainstorm. It's free, and we'll pinpoint the #1 thing blocking revenue. Visit championleadership.com, where leaders evolve and companies transform. That's really good, because there probably would have been some assumptions had you focused on martial arts, because you already knew that. And by going into something new, you really had to start from the very ground level and build up from there.
And many entrepreneurs are successful because they build a product for them, knowing that there's so many people like them. Mm-hmm. But when something becomes its extreme, it becomes its opposite. The danger is that you build a product for you and it uniquely meets your needs, but doesn't really ladder up to everyone else's needs. And so the alternative approach is you don't build products for people like you, but you build this muscle of curiosity and insight, and how to kind of like watch what people do more than you listen to what they say, and spot things and observe things. Because innovation's hiding in plain sight. Consumers show us every day. How many times have you seen a Post-it note on a coffee machine saying, "Do not press this button," because it dumps a jug of coffee all over the floor, right? Right. As a coffee machine designer, you should be like, I can design a better coffee machine. Everybody does that. So Post-it notes and Excel spreadsheets are great clues for opportunities for innovation. So.
That is absolute gold. Anybody listening should be writing that down. Yeah, that is gold.
That was our trick at Adobe, was whether you walked into a bank, whether you walked into a clinical trial, whether you walked into a shoe designing organization, the first thing you looked for were Post-it notes or spreadsheets.
Yeah, there's definitely opportunity in both of those. So how does Ascensi fit into other applications and make them stickier? Even starting earlier, like acquisition, engagement, retention, churn prevention. How does it make those applications stickier for your clients?
Let's stop talking about Ascensi. Let's start talking about our customers. Let's start talking about the problems that they're solving. So we have one customer called In Motion Wellness, a group of about 20 brick and mortar studios, and they do what's called assisted stretching. So kind of like going to the physio, except you're not injured. You want to not get injured. You want to be more supple, more mobile. You're probably supporting sport, or like me, you kind of sit too much and you have a bad back. And so you go and do these assisted stretching workshops where you're working with a trainer. So as a customer acquisition tool and a customer engagement tool, they've developed a solution using our technology where you would walk into that studio and you would warm up with your trainer, your practitioner. You would warm up with them, but not unbeknownst to you because they disclose this. But there's a tablet that's running Ascensi technology that's watching you warm up, and as you're warming up, we might see things like, Jeff seems to have a particularly tight right shoulder today, or he looks kind of off balance on that single leg balance. He's like a little wobbly on that side and not that side, or this has improved since the last time was Jeff was here. He's got more range of motion in his shoulders. So maybe that exercise we were doing with a wooden dowel, we can do with a barbell now. And so all of these insights are getting identified by Ascensi, but then given to the practitioner. So, you've still got an expert in the room who's coaching you, but you're now following kind of personalized precision care. We call that a super coach at Ascensi. Like, how do we make coaches super coaches? So that's one example of a use case where we're repeating that use case across gyms and studios, where it becomes an acquisition tool and it becomes a retention tool, because I can show you what you need to work on and I can show you that you're getting better. Those are two really important metrics. Let's go in a different direction. We have a customer called Alter, alterme.com. Go and check them out. Really cool. You mentioned mirrors. So they have a smart mirror, but their onboarding includes assessments. You do a DNA swab of your cheek and they'll tell you your proclivity to certain foods and diet and sleep and your exercise chronotype and all these like really interesting things that inform their programming. They monitor and track your sleep as others do as well. And then they use Ascensi for those moments you're stood in front of the mirror to assess you, to guide you, to coach you, to correct you, to motivate you. Because again, that feeling of I'm at home and I'm unsupervised and I don't know if I'm doing that thing right. Well, when your mirror speaks back to you and that coach on the screen actually tells you, great job, Jeff, or lift your knees higher, just like that. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Or the coach on screen is able to say, you're doing this really well. It's time to do the harder version of that exercise. That's motivating. That makes you come back the next time. And the next time you're kind of unlocking reward. And then I'll just share one more. We have a customer called Bouts and they make a boxing bag and they have studios. They're opening phenomenal studios, mainly in Europe. Actually, that's not even true. They're opening them all over the world now. But the boxing bag has a camera on it powered by Ascensi. And so they're watching your punches and your kicks and your elbows and your knees, and they can gamify that experience. So you're not just in a dark studio, hitting a bag aimlessly, trying to keep up with the class. You're scoring points. You're on a leaderboard. You're getting better than the last time. So, brick and mortar studios, at home, physical therapy, all of these experiences can be elevated by Ascensi. So whether it's an acquisition moment, or whether it's just making the workout more enjoyable, which drives engagement, or showing you improvement, which drives retention. But it's all about, I come back to the Adobe DNA here. It's all about what's the best imaginable end user experience you can conceive that's powered by that technology. And if you get that experience right, it will move one of those needles on acquisition, engagement, or retention and churn in a very intentional manner.
That's so good. Really thinking about that entire experience all the way through and having the rewards. Because it's easy for somebody to get excited. I'm going to do fitness at home. And then, I don't know what the failure rates is. Maybe, 90% plus, 95. But then you have those rewards and they're seeing that progression. And maybe they're going into, an in-office physical therapy visit once every 2 weeks or once a month, but they're able to do everything that they would normally do without having to make that trip.
And there's also there's a lot to be said for just accountability as well. Accountability to adherence. Like, did you do it? I've worked with trainers a bunch in my and I'm physically active and motivated to be physical, but still, I'll see my trainer on a Monday, and then next Monday, she would show up in my garage and be like, did you do those 3 mobility workouts? I'm like, yes, maybe 2 of them, maybe 1 of them. But suddenly when you know that the digital app is watching you and tracking you and logging your scores and logging your results, there's that kind of sense of accountability of if I don't do it, they'll know I've not done it. And physical therapy is a great example of that. Anyone listening to this call that's ever gone and seen a PT knows that shame of going back to the PT and not having done any of the exercises that you were supposed to have done in the last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you do any of those? Nope.
And,
I did.
You don't get better. Your PT doesn't like it, and your insurance stops paying for it after a while. So now we can bring adherence into the cycle.
Oh, that's really smart. And having the rewards, seeing the progress. I think it's one of the things that's missing a lot of times. Is even if you go physical therapy, it's like, okay, I did the thing. And, now I'm going to go do it again in, 2 days or next week or whatever it is. But there's nothing in between. There's no reward. There's no motivation.
And also, frankly, again, since we're on PT, how many of us have stared at these, line drawings that were photocopied out of some German
Right.
physical therapy manual from the 70s, right? And you're like, and the exercise that was photocopied out in the manual is not exactly the way the trainer wants you to do it. So they kind of cross things out and, scribble messages on it. And you're looking at all your sheets of paper and like, what am I supposed to be doing?
No
again?
idea
Was it 8 reps? Was it 5 reps? Nice. So, that's a real problem that just drives down adherence is cognitive dissonance. Like, I can't even remember what I'm supposed to do. And so you don't do it. And that's one of the key things we found with Ascensi is if people just show up and you tell them what to do, they're much more likely to do it than if you ask them to choose when and where and what they want to do. We just want to be told. That's why trainers are so successful. You show up and the trainer tells you what to do.
Yeah. It removes friction of the, I don't know what to do. I'm not really sure how to do it. I don't know if I'm doing it right. You're getting that immediate feedback and you're making progress. Yeah, it's amazing that can be done digitally.
Yeah, it is. I'm proud of the team that does it.
Well, tell me a little bit about the evolution of the technology over time. Smart clothing, embedded sensors, computer vision. How has that changed and what does the future look like?
That's a great question. When I started the company, one of the grand challenges, if you like one of the technology problems we'd have to solve is motion capture at consumer scale. We quickly realized that you can have a watch or a Fitbit or a heart rate monitor with a sensor that can I call them bouncy counters, it can maybe detect oscillations.
Right.
But it can't, there's no way, and many people have claimed, but there's no way you can have a sensor on your wrist and be doing front kicks in karate and know whether the form of your kick was correct from a sensor on your wrist. It just can't. So we quickly realized we need to track the whole body. We need to track the skeleton. We need to capture biomechanics, snapshots of the skeleton multiple times a second, 30, 40 frames per second. And because I'd worked at Microsoft with the Connect team, because I knew just how much innovation and hardware was in that Connect, I couldn't conceive of a world in which that would be in a smartphone, or it wouldn't be something bulky that would have to be tethered to a TV. So it didn't feel like the right solution. And at the same time, wearable was really kind of starting to take off. Wearable was a thing. It was a hot market in VC. It was driving innovation around smart textiles and stretchable cables and flexible batteries. And I was like, clothing is the form factor. Could you imagine just pulling on your Nike shirt and the sensors in that shirt can track your golf swing and you have Tiger Woods' voice in your ear correcting you? That was the vision for Ascensi. We couldn't afford Tiger Woods, so he's not the guy in our video that I told you about, but that was the vision for Ascensi, that we would license a sensor technology to Nike, to Under Armour, to Lululemon, and it would track your posture and form, and we would have the system of recognition and understanding. Now, we did bring that technology to market. You can go to Virus International, awesome apparel brand in California, and they will sell you connected apparel with Ascensi's sensor technology in it. However, two things happened. You talked about challenges earlier. One, it was getting bad anyway, and COVID was kind of the, I don't want to say nail in the coffin, it's a bad metaphor for COVID, but, COVID was the definitely a catalyst here, is that the chips, the inertial measurement units, the sensors that we had 10 of, 5 in your shirt and 5 in your pants, were the same shirts that Tesla are using for self-driving cars. And, everybody's using these IMUs, and there was a chip shortage. That was made a lot worse by Shenzhen shutting down, and was made even worse by, if you remember that cargo ship getting stuck across the Suez Canal, and the supply chain was just wrecked. So I was very nervous anyway of like betting the farm on hardware coming out of Shenzhen is not looking like a, great bet, as we're seeing factories close down and uncertain when they'll reopen. But more optimistically, the compute power on our phones was becoming insane. And the advances in AI, and now computer vision wasn't good enough yet. We were getting okay 2D computer vision, so no depth from the camera, but we could get like a 2D flat person on screen and track them. So good enough for a wee game, but not good enough for physical therapy and precision coaching. But we took a bit of a gamble, necessity is the mother of invention. We took a little bit of a gamble of like, I bet it'll be good enough soon. So let's embrace computer vision as well. So that was a big decision for us around kind of 2020, 2021 of let's make it an and, not an or. I described it to my investors as, working at Adobe. I never want to be in another Flash versus HTML conversation ever again. Like I don't want to be in sensors versus computer vision. Right. So we decided to be both and let one. And so for a long time, computer vision became this like easier integration path that was an on-ramp to connected apparel. But it's interesting. We're sort of at a place now where we're doing so much with computer vision. We're not just doing pose estimation, which is skeleton tracking. We're doing equipment recognition like dumbbells. We're doing spatial estimation. So we know if you moved left, right, up, down, whether you jumped, whether you kind of moved back from the camera forward. So suddenly we're actually able to do more with the camera than we can do with connected apparel. And so that was a big transition. And I think it tells a story of something really important that I share with a lot of, aspiring entrepreneurs is if you're in love with the solution more than the problem, we'd have dug our heels in and told everyone that like it's Flash, not HTML. It's sensors. It's not cameras. But if you're in love with the problem more than the solution, like I want to solve the problem of human movement recognition so that we can unlock digital health and fitness, that's not a hard pivot to make if you know it's the right technology, if you know the technology is capable. So that was probably a company-making decision. But I will say this, because a follow-up question is, well, do you regret all that time you spent on connected apparel when most of your business is computer vision right now? And we're the undisputed best technology in the market for movement recognition because of the way connected apparel forced us to think about the problem. Everyone that tried to do this with computer vision first, even companies like Peloton, they ultimately failed to scale because the technology has inherent limitations to scale. When you're trying to recognize hundreds of exercises and add lots of nuance to those exercises. So each decision made us better and better and better, but having the courage to move beyond the decision and onto a different path really let us get to where we are today.
That's great. And when you were thinking about funding, how did you decide to raise versus bootstrap versus do something else?
How do I be honest answering this question? I think, honestly, there was just a little bit of hubris at the beginning, right? I mean, I'm in the Bay Area. Like, you walk into a coffee shop and you come out with like a check. Right? Everybody raises money. It'll be easy. And as I alluded earlier, like, surely I fit the pedigree. Like, I'm a repeat entrepreneur. My CTO took a company public. He took a speech recognition company that he built public in London. Basically an IPO, a public listing. Like, investors are going to throw money at us. We like, our resumes are Adobe and Microsoft. So I think, if I'm being intellectually honest, I just assumed I'd be able to raise lots of money. So that's why I tried to. Reality bit pretty quickly, that apparently you can't just raise money with a slide deck unless you're Elon or Jack. And so, if you don't have a Twitter handle that's your name, you're not going to raise money on a deck. And so we did bootstrap, and bootstrap's maybe even a fancy word for just not taking any salaries for a year or two. And then I kind of realized I'm not going to raise from institutional investors. I'm going to have to raise from friends and family. And I didn't grow up in a town where friends and family write $100,000 seed checks to risky startups. Sure. And so friends and family was really more a euphemism for start hanging out where angel investors hang out, start hanging out where, and you know, in the Bay Area, that's a lot easier than in other places. There's like an event every evening. But it was an awful lot of networking, and you know, the cliche, like we had to kiss a lot of frogs. We raised our first, I think, $800,000 to $900,000. It was $25,000 to $50,000 at a time. You know, we probably had under $100,000 in the bank at all times. So it's not like you got this big check and it's like, let's go and spend it. But it forces you to be scrappy, and that's one thing I learned from the designers at Adobe. Actually, I remember. Albert Poon, one of the phenomenal designers I worked with at Adobe, talked about the difference between constraint and compromise. I remember him explaining this to me. He's like, you can't do great design without constraints. He's like, you should never compromise design, but you need to introduce constraints to create the space for a good design. And so, I think about that a lot. The financial constraints force you to focus, and most people will tell you in any company or any product, you have to be focused. In the early days, and nothing sharpens the mind like no money.
Right. I think that's one of the reasons that a lot of tech companies that do go out and raise big rounds struggle, is because they don't have those constraints. They don't have to be scrappy. They don't have to think about it that way. They can just throw money at it, and if it doesn't solve the problem, we'll throw more money at it or go raise some more.
And again, I think there's benefit of hindsight. This is lessons I learned over the way, not like, deep insight that I brought to the problem. But what you learn, if you didn't know it already, is you have to grow into your next valuation, and that has to be a multiple of what you raised the last time. And so, if you go out and raise $20 million on a slide deck, once you've spent it, like, you can't go out and raise another $20 million. You got to have shown a point of inflection in the growth of the business and raise money at higher valuation. So that's the situation we're in right now. There's been a major reset in the market. And so companies that were like making hay while the sun was shining and raising more and more money, they now look like fires. I mean, look at Peloton. It's ridiculous. Like they're a penny stock almost at this point. And ask most people about Peloton, and it's like they're such a terrible, company. Then go and look at their quarterly revenue, and look at the number of subscribers they have. And any of us would, kill for that business and kill for those revenue numbers and kill for that low churn that they have. The challenge they have is they raise billions of dollars, and so with a market correction, it's the optics on that are terrible, and all else follows that. So. I think a lesson for any, certainly first-time entrepreneur is like, and again, I filed this under advice I was given and ignored and wish I hadn't. But some of my early investors were like, can you do more with less? Can you raise less money, reach some milestone? I was like, no, we'll just go out and raise $2 million to start. Like, we need $2 million. Like, trust me on this. And the reality is we never got it, and we probably didn't need it. We could have kind of cleared milestones first.
It's a really, really good lesson. I think we've all done that, taken the advice and we look back and like, I should have listened. I should have listened to that advice back then.
My CTO has again, I'm sure he stole this phrase, but he reminds me of it every so often. Is like, experience is what you get just after you needed it. Is that?
That's another good one to write that one down. Well, where can people learn more about you and about Ascensi online?
I think LinkedIn, like, that tends to be the place where we're most prolific because we're B2B. Like, we kind of, meet other companies and that's where people kind of find out about us. So I would say follow myself individually on LinkedIn because we've also found that we just get better reach of our content. People follow people more than they follow companies today.
Absolutely.
But it's not all about me, but I tend to share what's happening and what the team are working on. I share that from my personal account, and then we share it on the company account. So that's the best place to kind of follow us. And we have a newsletter as well. So if you go to ascensi.ai/inside, we send out the Ascensi Inside newsletter, no more than once a month, sometimes once every couple of months. We try not to spam people, but we'll keep you up to date with what we're up to there.
Very good. We'll make sure to link that in the show notes. I have to ask you one final question. Is what are the similarities between martial arts and really going up the ranks and earning the belts and black belt and multiple dans and building a SaaS company?
This is a whole. We should do episode 2. I love to talk about this. It's,
we can definitely get to that.
Yeah. No, listen, I think there's a lot of analogy, like a lot of lessons that I learned on the mat. First, as a practitioner, going from white belt to black belt. There's so many lessons. I mean, I could be kind of pithy at this point, but, I think about things like, there's no shortcut. I mean, first of all, there is no shortcut. And, people see entrepreneur as this career path, as this quick flip. We often joke about, most overnight successes took 10 years. It's a 10-year overnight success. And it's the same for getting a black belt. You don't just show up and get a black belt. The second is you've got to put in the reps. Like, that's one of the things you learn in martial arts. You show up on Wednesday and you do the same class as last Friday. You got to, 10,000 hours or whichever example you want to use, but you got to put in the reps. In building a business, you got to do like 100 bad VC pitches to do one that you're like, they didn't say no. They said, let's have another meeting. And it's the same in sales, right? It's the same in sales. You got to be able to just go in and do the same thing that you did the last time. But be like, what was different, what went better, what didn't go better. So many analogies I could share. And then from a company building perspective and from a coaching perspective, everything I know about building teams, everything I know about, if you can talk a 17-year-old into entering a tournament like Cobra Kai, that's about rallying someone around a vision, right? It's like, I believe that you can do this and I believe there's reward and value in you doing it. So like so many lessons I learned just coaching people and helping them realize on the mat that they had the potential to be that black belt and that I could take them there. I'd been on that journey and I could take them on that journey. That's the same building a team and hiring. And that's also the same with building a 3-year roadmap with your customer and saying, trust us, like we can take you from where you are to where you need to be, because we've been down that road before. So, I got a book in me on this topic. So, I'm glad.
Sounds great. Well, thanks for being on SaaS Fuel, Stephen. It's been a wonderful conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. Much appreciated.
Thanks again, Stephen, for coming on the show and sharing your journey and insights. You can learn more about Stephen and Ascensi at ascensi.ai. As always, all links, highlights, resources, and full show notes are available at saasfuel.com. And be sure to check us out on YouTube as well. At Champion Leadership, we've got full episodes, video shorts, trainings, outtakes, lots more on there for you. And thought leaders share. So this week, share this episode with someone you would pick to go to Fiji with, maybe one or more. I was diving with some crazy fun group of people from Maui, a bunch of friends the last few days. So hey, everyone who shares this week gets a coconut. Green or brown, your choice. Fun fact, you can actually mail a coconut in the US. You just put stamps on it and Postal Service takes it just like that. You literally put stamps on a coconut. Join us Thursday on our SaaS Fuel Expert Series where my guest is Brenda Viola. She's an award-winning news anchor, author, and former QVC host who now inspires public servants and corporate teams through transformative workshops and keynotes on reclaiming joy and overcoming burnout. And next Tuesday we have founder, it is Sime time. We have founder Sime Khan, founder and principal consultant at Cyber Matters. Sime has built a reputation for delivering holistic business-wide outcomes that go beyond mere tech fixes. Great mix of business and technical wisdom in that episode. So I will see you then, and as always, enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to SaaS Fuel. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/saasfuel. We'll be sure to read these out on future episodes.